Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to explain the unit of work, the UOW. So before going to the nitty-gritty or the implementation of unit of work, let me explain what the unit of work actually is. So the unit of work is a concept related to effectively implementation of repository pattern. If you people are familiar with the repository pattern, then in the repository pattern, I'm just giving you some insight. In repository pattern, we have entities, and those entities need to be saved, updated, or deleted accordingly. But the concept of unit of work comes in a mind where we need to have some transactional work where the transactions should be there, or there should be something that goes in a unit to the database instead of sending one by one. So to understand the concept, first I will explain you what the repository is, and then from there onward I will move to the implementation of unit of work. So before going to the detail in unit of work, I'm just explaining what the repository pattern is. So the repository pattern, as I told you, it is just a pattern in which we define all those CRUD operations or whatever the operations we wanted to do on our entities. Those operations are defined, and once those operations are defined, then we can have our controller code wherever the repository would be needed. We will call that repository, we will call the CRUD operation, and the rest of things will be done by the repository itself. So repository has two type of implementation. One is the non-generic, and the other is generic repository. In the non-generic repository, what we have to do is we have to create a repository for all the entities. For example, if we have customer, order, product, whatever the things we might have, all those entities might have to have their own generic, they have to have their own entities itself. So for that we have to create all the entities one by one for all, repository for all, one by one for all the entities. So that is a non-generic repository. But the one of the most important thing here is the generic repository, where we have to create one repository and we just need to pass the entity. The rest of things would be there. I'm just explaining it more. For example, we have four entities: customer, order, and then we have the product or product category. For example, we have four entities. So for four entities we have to create four separate classes, and for separate classes we have to have all those CRUD operations. Mean those will be redundant in every class. So instead of creating the four class and then maintaining it separately, the best way is to implement the repository is we have to create a generic repository, one class with all the operations. But what we have to do is we just need to pass an entity, and those, according to those entities, the rest of the things will be managed. So this is what the repository is. So once the repository is created at that level, the concept of unit of work comes. So unit of work, as I explained in my intro, it is just a single transactions involves in multiple operation. For example, we have to have two or three tables involved, and those three tables might have different type of operations. Like one has to have insert, the other has to have update, and the third one maybe it needed deleted. So instead of sending three separate calls, we can have a one unit of work, or one request to the database, and once that request will be succeeded, we will get our final result that the transaction has been completed. Otherwise, we have to have all those operation reverts back instead of doing manually. For example, sending a one record to the database, and then the other entity is sending the updation, the other entity is sending the deletion, and maybe in one case one would be succeeded, two would be failed. So in that case the data will be inconsistent. So to avoid those situations, we are using unit of work in which a whole operation is done in a one operation, in a single transaction. If it is succeeded, then we will get the result, otherwise it will be rollback. So this is the beauty of, I would say, the unit of work. So first I will explain. I have created a class, and I will just letting you know that the how the pattern would look like. So for example, this is the customer class. We have created a non-generic repository just for the sake of understanding that how it works. It has the customer entities as well as I have order entities separately. So let me explain that what it does is, for example, it is a customer repository and it has the entities as a new initialized class, for example, and then we are having the add, delete, and save, or maybe we might have updation. So in these cases, as you can see, we are passing the customer as an entity, and the rest of things are doing it on the particular entities. This is what we have implemented without unit of work. So without unit of work, it looks like it would work, but definitely once we involve multiple table in that level, definitely this would not work, because in some of the cases, if we are sending an order but the customer is new, customer is not added in the database, but we are adding the order in the database, in that level order is useless if the customer is not there. So in those cases we might have the unit of work implemented. So this is without a unit of work. So the unit of work, what I have explained that what it will do is it will have the DB context, and DB context will send the request. And if we have the order, for example, the second entry as a order, and the order is sending separately, the customer is sending it separately, but there is some failure in between, then definitely it will be inconsistency in the database, or there will be definitely garbage in and garbage out. So I have explained it here as well. So to avoid such a situation, let me explain what is the need of unit of work. See, this is what we have without unit of work. Order controller, for example, and order repository, and it has its own DB context. Sending data, receiving data, no issue. It would work 100% in the same manner. In the same manner, we have customer controller, customer repository, and it is working fine. But where two repository cumulatively needed, where one repository is dependent on the another, then once one failed, the other would not have the significance. I would say definitely. For example, we have to have a customer ID in an order, but if customer is not inserted but order is inserted, it is useless. So to avoid such situation, what we have to have is we have to have a unit of work. So the order controller or customer controller, they need to send their data to unit of work, and then the unit of work should have only one DB contact instead of two different DB concept, DB contexts. So once a one DB context would be there. So if it is fail for all. If it is passed for both the order repository and as well as the customer repository. So that is the beauty, that once we send a data to a single DB context, a single transaction would be there. If the transaction fails, everything would be fail. If transaction pass, it would be pass for everything. So that is what I have already explained, that how we can do it. But let me see what I have implemented. So for that, what we have to do is we have to create a unit of work class. So two repository would be separately, right? So two repositories are there, and we are creating the entity class here, not in the same manner as I showed you in the customer repository. So what we are doing is, in the unit of work constructor, we are passing the entities. Mean entity would be passed here, whether it is order entity or whether it is a customer entity, it will pass here. And then if it is a, for example, customer repository is there, all the operations will be done here. So if repo is null, it will create a new repository and return back. In the same manner, if it is an order repository, if the repository is null, it will create a new instance of that entity and will send it back. In the same manner, it will do a save operation, that is a save changes. Once that class is ready, then what we have to do is we have to change our customer and our order repository accordingly. See, the customer repository previously, if you see the last slide which I showed you for the customer repository, there was an entity that was initiated here. But after changing the unit of work, what I did is I make the entity as a private variable and pass it in the customer repository constructor. Here we are passing the entities, and now this entity is coming from unit of work, not directly entities, right? Once those entities will be in the constructor, it will be initialized. then whatever the entities would be there, whether it is a customer, whether it is a order, whatever the entities are there, they will be done according to the unit of work. So once these entities would be changed, then in our controller, what change we need to do is need to initiate our unit of work in the same manner, because class is created there, and here we need to initiate with the new entity. So its instance is created here, and once the instance is created here, then we can pass our entities here as a customer, as a order, whatever the changes we wanted to do. For example, in this way, I'm going to create a customer here with a test customer, and in the same manner, I'm going to add a order. So these two do not have their own save changes. Only a one save changes would be there. So if it is failed, it is also failed. If both are passed in that level, we will get the final result. Otherwise, it will be failed. So this is what the beauty of unit of work is. I'm just concluding it. Unit of work is nothing but a single transaction for the multiple table operations. So once a one transaction would be succeeded, every table would have updated or deleted, or whatever the operation we wanted to do. Otherwise, the whole transaction will be rolled back, because they are relying on a 1 DB context. So thank you so much, guys. Bye bye.